Hey everyone, and welcome to my Captain Marvel reading vlog. So for the last few years I've been collecting a lot of Marvel comics, all to do with female Marvel characters. I've got a lot of Captain Marvel to read. I've also got a lot of like Monica Rambeau as Photon and various other names that she goes by over the years. I've got a lot of Miss Marvel, things like this that I have collected over the years but I just haven't read yet. So I figured I'd do a reading vlog all about reading all of these different characters in one vlog, because they all sort of fall under that same sort of like light power umbrella, and also because there is a film coming out with them. But I'm not talking about that because obviously the strike at time of filming is still ongoing and I do not want to be promoting struck work. Instead I'm going to be talking about all of the comics, so let's get into exactly what I'm going to be reading and then getting into reading it. To start with, I have Monica Rambeau's Photon. This is by Eve Ewing, and this is Monica Rambeau's only solo comic, which is ridiculous, quite frankly, because she's been around for the last like 60 years and she's never had a solo run, which is ridiculous to say the least, because she deserved it a long time ago, but there we go. I'm also going to be looking up her team-ups as well, because that's just where she mainly is at the moment, so I'm going to be looking up a few of her team-ups. I've also got Miss Marvel team-up as well, which is all about Miss Marvel Kamala Khan, as she teams up with various Marvel characters, including Carol Danvers herself, so that's going to be another one. And then I have my Captain Marvel collection. So there is Captain Marvel, Higher, Further, Faster, More, then also Stay Fly, and also Alice Volat Propris, which I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong. This is all by Kelly Sue DeConnick, and this one is actually touted as like the best place to start with Captain Marvel in the more modern era, so I'm definitely going to be reading these ones. Then there is Rise of the Alpha Flight, and then also Civil War 2. Both of these are part of a different series, and then the rest of it is all on Marvel Unlimited, so I'm going to try and read those ones as well. And then there is also anything else I can find on Marvel Unlimited, but I think that's enough to be getting on with. Right now I don't have that much time today specifically, so I'm going to start with Monica Rambeau, because obviously that is a mini limited series, and we'll go from there. So let's boot up Marvel Unlimited and read Photon by Eve Ewing. I'm on the second issue now and I'm really liking the artwork in here, so this is an example so you can just see what I'm on about. Also I'm really enjoying like the cameos of this one. In the first one we see Doctor Strange, Wong and Spider-Man, and then in this one we are seeing the Avengers, or at least an Avengers team that Monica used to like lead way back when, like I think like 40 years ago now. But yeah, anyway, she used to lead the Avengers, and she's just come across a villain called the Beyonder, who is someone they fought in the original Secret Wars, which was again like 40-50 years ago now, I think it was, back when Monica was leading the Avengers. And she seems to be in this different reality where she seems to still be the like leader of the Avengers, but her parents are like dead in this reality and things like this, and she's like, what the hell is going on here, this kind of thing. So I'm really intrigued by this. I would say it probably would help if you are planning on reading this, of like knowing a bit about Monica's past. I do actually have a like character profile on Monica that I'll link down below so you can check it out if you want to know a bit more about her, just in general for her comics. And also it would probably help to know a bit about like the Beyonder, things like this. But I think this is doing a pretty good job as well of like setting up Monica as a character. You get to see her parents, a bit about like her family, her life, her powers, this kind of thing, before it properly gets into anything, so that's quite good. I'm also really liking it as well that we are talking about like how exhausted she is, because she always wants to be like the MVP of every single like team she's on. She always wants to be like helping people, this kind of thing, but she is experiencing a bit of burnout, so I am also really enjoying that element of it, that we are exploring a bit of that. So I am really appreciating seeing some exploration of her actually like dealing with burnout and this kind of thing. That's all quite interesting. So yeah, really good start so far, really enjoying the artwork and quite intrigued by the storyline. But I would say that if you are going to read this, just make sure you do know a fair bit about Monica's past and also the Beyonder. That's all I can say for now, but obviously I'm going to continue on with the series and tell you what I think in a minute. So I've just read Photon, and this was a pretty good one. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest comic I've ever read or anything, but I did like that it was looking at the more human insight to Monica and being like what she wants deep down, who she is, this kind of thing. I did enjoy that kind of commentary on it, that kind of thing, but I do think this would have been better off maybe as like a longer comic to really explore those themes and seeing Monica like become more of herself and become more confident in herself, that kind of thing. I think it would have really sort of benefited from that, but at the same time I did still really enjoy this one. I enjoyed the messages of it, I enjoyed getting to know Monica a bit more. I will say that I do think this would work best if you are like familiar with Monica as a character and her adventures, this kind of thing, but overall it is a pretty good one to go for if you are looking for a Monica Rambeau solo comic, because to be honest it's the only one available, so you don't really have much choice in that matter. But overall it is a pretty good time, and I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. It was not my favourite comic in the world, but still a pretty good one. And now that's read, I think I'm going to go on to Miss Marvel Team Up, but not today unfortunately because I do not have time. But this is going to be the next read because I'm just really excited to read more about like Kamala teaming up with different people, and this one is calling to me the most. So this is going to be the next one tomorrow, and I will catch you up obviously when I've started reading it. So I've now just started reading the Miss Marvel Team Up, and at the moment Kamala has teamed up with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and they've ended up body swapping for various plot reasons, and now they're trying to use each other's powers because obviously they're in each other's bodies, they need to get to wherever they need to go, this kind of thing. And Peter has just embiggened Kamala's head, the rest of her body stays the exact same way. This could go hilarious. I mean, it's already been quite funny as well, seeing them like swap and like Kamala being like, I can't be here, my parents are going to think I'm kidnapped, I've got to go to school, all the rest of it. While Peter's being completely and utterly calm about this because he's like, this isn't my first rodeo with body swapping and all of this kind of thing. And it's really fun seeing them like interact with each other and like figuring out that who the other person is, this kind of thing. But this shot right here just really makes me smile because I mean it is hilarious, and seeing Peter try to use someone else's powers is quite funny. Two things, both of which are kind of random, but I love this Spider-Man and Kamala symbol like edging here. Like I would love that as a washi tape for my bullet journal. Just random thing there. But also Peter being inside Kamala's body and he's like, I've got energy again, my knees don't hurt, I'm gonna skip to school. I mean, I think we'd all do that, to be honest. I think we would all do that. Meanwhile, Kamala's like, I don't have to go to school. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to buy, like, scratch cards and I'm going to be an adult. But at the same time, she's got to do Peter's job interview. So this is quite fun, sort of like seeing them swapping lives, things like this. So that's really funny. But also, I just want that as washi tape really badly. I'm not going to lie. I've now finished the Spider-Man Team Up, and it was a really great one to read, actually. You don't really need that much, like knowledge about previous Spider-Man things or anything. It does give you the reference again as to where like the things he's referenced are like in the comic, so you can go off and read that comic if you're interested in that. But as long as you know the general idea of like Peter Parker and then also Kamala Khan, you should be fine reading it. It was a really fun time in general. I really like that they were really sort of like talking about like the difficulties of being a teenager, while also talking as well about the difficulties of like growing older, this kind of thing. So Peter's talking about the fact that he can finally, when he's in Kamala's body, he can reach the low shelf without his knees hurting, this kind of thing. That was really fun. And then also we got a very quick and very, albeit brief, reference as well to the problems of owning a uterus and what happens once a month. That was great as well because Peter has to experience that and he's just like, what the hell, I thought I was dying. Those kind of things. So that was quite fun as well to actually get that reference. I was wondering if we were going to get it, and we did. So that was really great as well. And overall it was a really good time. The artwork was great, as you saw from some of those panels, and I had a really good time reading it. And now I'm going on to Kamala teaming up with Captain Marvel. So very excited for this one, to say the least, because obviously that is what I'm here for. I'm really excited for this, so I'm going to get reading with this one, and I will tell you what I think about it in a minute. So the Kamala and Carol team up is dealing with like heritage and the fact that Carol is actually half Kree, and we are dealing with someone who wants to get back at the Kree, this kind of thing, and sort of seeing how these two are like teaming up together and how they work together, this kind of thing. So that's all a really good time. I'm really liking seeing how they interact with each other and how like like how Carol's trying to keep like Kamala up to date with things. So for example, they've just been attacked by a sentry, and Kamala's going, so that's not the giant robot that attacks the X-Men every 6 months, and Carol's going, no, those are Sentinels, and she's like trying to like help Kamala with all of these kind of things. And then also they're making references to the fact that Kamala writes like fan fiction and things like this, and also Carol's trying to help her with like her parents and things for like letting her out and about and all of the rest of this. And it's also talking a lot about like heritage and things like this, which is also really, really important, and seeing how like it's important for Kamala to honour her heritage the same way it is important for Carol to honour her Kree heritage as well. And sort of seeing stuff like this is all really interesting. I'm really liking this conversation. I'm hoping it's going to go a little bit deeper in the future when they're obviously not in a like fight with the Sentry, but I am still really enjoying this one. I will say that the artwork is not as fun as the previous volume, but I am still really enjoying it. It's not bad artwork by any means, I just preferred the previous artwork, but it's still pretty good. So the Captain Marvel story was really good in the end. I think it focused a little bit too much on like talking about like blaming an entire group of people for one person's actions, this kind of thing. It was a little bit heavy-handed in that. I think it could have been done a little bit better in terms of like talking about like not blaming like a whole group of people for one person's actions, and sort of doing it a lot more like, not subtly, because that's not what I mean, but I mean like more like sensitively, I guess you could say, and a bit more like a bit less heavy-handed. That's what I'm going to say. It should have been like that, but overall it was still a good one. If you are not familiar with Captain Marvel comics, you can still read this one because it goes into like the fact that she is part Kree, things like this, quite well. So in that sense it's quite good in that way. And then the final story was all about Kamala teaming up with Gemma Simmons and Agent Coulson of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that was amazing because I love that TV show so much. It is one of my absolute favourites, and also I will always have a soft spot for Agent Coulson because he is one of like the original like Avenger characters. I love him so much, so it was really great to see him as well in this one, and also Simmons because I love her as a character, and seeing like Kamala like interacting with them and things like this, and Coulson being like, no, you are still a child, I want you to be safe and this kind of thing, but Kamala still wanting to help. And then the two of them sort of like sort of debating like superhero knowledge and things like this, and right at the end Coulson gives her a card that says call me if it all gets a bit too much, because obviously she is a child and she's juggling a lot of things. And then also it was absolutely the Animator, which is a reference to a weapon that they were dealing with, and I found that really fun as well, to sort of seeing these two characters together. I love that because in one of the other Miss Marvel comics I've read, she actually meets up with Coulson to discuss fan fiction about the Avengers, which is just brilliant. I absolutely love that. So I love seeing sort of like that initial meeting between the two of them, this kind of thing. And overall this was a really good fun comic. I had a really good time reading this one. If you are looking for anything to do with like Kamala and like her teaming up with various Avengers and people like this, definitely give this one a go. It would help if you had some basic knowledge of the Marvel Universe to read this one, but generally it does a pretty good job of quickly catching you up with like the necessary like details that you need. And overall it was a really great time, and I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. I've now just read on the tablet as well the Miss Marvel Generations, which is where Kamala goes back in time, or gets sent back in time by accident, to when Carol Danvers was operating as Miss Marvel back when she was working for the Daily Bugle, and how they're dealing with a hostile takeover while also the magazine that Carol is working for is failing, and like this kind of thing. They're trying to figure out how to like save it while also dealing with this villain, this kind of thing. And Kamala's also dealing with the fact that in her timeline her and Carol aren't really getting along, but she still really looks up to Carol and she's still trying to help her, this kind of thing. And also we get this important topic of talking about like how we can have like equality and things like this, but we don't have to stop being like frivolous in a lot of ways. We can still be like mothers while also working like full-time as well. We can like makeup while also being like a badass, all of this kind of thing. That was really interesting to be like woven into this, especially considering at the time that this was set, it's supposed to be like how women stop working when they get in the family way, and how they can't apply for their own credit card without their husband's permission, this kind of thing. So it was really interesting to see that point of view of like a more modern perspective and a more modern girl from like our time in that time, and like in this olden time, and like sort of trying to help out, this kind of thing. I did really enjoy this. I like seeing this look of like a classic Carol Danvers working with obviously Kamala Khan from Now, and how both of them are called Miss Marvel, and that kind of perspective. It was a really good one to read, especially if you're looking for something really quick. I literally took like 5 minutes to read it, I think it was, so I would give it a go if you want to, and I'd say it is a 4-star read as well. I've now just finished The Life of Captain Marvel by Margaret Stohl, and this was a really good one actually. This is sort of looking at an alternate take on Carol's origin story, and it actually kind of rewrites Carol's origin story in the sense that it makes her part Kree, and it's like we look more into like her childhood and her experiences there, this kind of thing. And I think it's a really good one, especially if you're looking for like a more sort of grounded family based like origin story, or just a comic to do with superheroes that is based around family and like real life family things and things like this. This is a really one to go for, though please do check the trigger warnings because there are quite a few of them for this one. But I did actually really enjoy this one. I was going to start on like my physical stuff, but I was like, I've only got time to read one of them, so I didn't really want to start like a brand new series or anything, so I decided to read that one. So if you're looking for like a quick sort of one and done thing, this is definitely a good one, and I had a really good time reading it, and I'm going to give it 4 stars as well. This is a great one to start with, without doubt. I've now just started Captain Marvel for Higher, Further, Faster, More, and this is by Kelly Sue DeConnick, and this is sort of like a good starting point for Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel in general, because this is when she takes the name, if I remember rightly. I have read this one before, back when I first got it, I think, but I never continued on with the series for no apparent reason. But there's a few things I just want to quickly mention. First of all, Carol is living in the Statue of Liberty. I have no idea why. I will Google that later. But she's living in the Statue of Liberty with another mother and also her daughter, who's called Kit, who Carol calls Lieutenant Trouble, which is obviously like where they got the idea for Monica and Maria Rambeau's involvement in the first Captain Marvel film. But we're not talking about that because strikes are still ongoing. But this is how they kind of do a very quick origin story in the form of a child's drawing done by Kit herself. I thought that was a really cool way of very quickly going, look, she was a normal human, she got caught in an alien blast, she now has powers, she's now Captain Marvel. That was quite cool. And then also Carol mentions Star Wars at points. So they're like being attacked on a planet, and the cops come along, and she does these are not the droids you are looking for, which I just think is brilliant. I love that involvement of it, because obviously Carol is a massive Star Wars nerd. She loves Star Wars so much, so it was really cool to see that reference in there. And then also there is references to her and Rhodey's relationship as well, because her and Rhodey are romantically involved within the comics, so that's really cool to see that, and seeing like how they do kind of discuss things a little bit like adults. There's still a little bit of like awkwardness there because Carol's not really good about talking about her feelings, this kind of thing, but they do still have a pretty adult conversation about the fact that she wants to go up into space because Tony has gone, we should probably have some kind of like presence in space besides the Guardians of the Galaxy, because lots of things going on and we don't really seem to like have any sort of team apart from the Guardians of the Galaxy who can deal with this. So he's suggesting like a kind of rotation thing where people go up for like 6 months to a year, they work with the Space Force side of things, and then coming back down to Earth again. So Carol is going to be the first person to do that, and I really like that she had that conversation with Rhodey about this in her own roundabout kind of way. I've now just finished Higher, Further, Faster, More, and this was a pretty good comic. I did enjoy like the storyline of it, because in this one Carol is trying to save a planet from the Spartax Empire, who is run by Star-Lord's dad, who is a member of the Spartax. He is actually like the emperor of the Spartax in the comics, and there's been a war recently with a group of people called the Builders, and loads of planets were destroyed, and the refugees were put onto this other planet that was empty, but now it turns out it's poisoned because this planet actually killed its population 200 years ago, and now everybody who is on this planet now Carol is now dying again, so they're trying to figure out what happened there and trying to help the people who do not want to leave, because obviously they've been like pushed from pillar to post recently because of all these wars and all the rest of it, and now they're like, we don't want to leave, and also we don't want to leave our dying or anything, we want to help them, and Carol is in the middle of it. And this was a really good one. I will say, please be warned though about talk of illness. There's a lot of talk of illness. There is also lots of talk of war, refugees, and then also like colonialism, things like this. Is very much big like colonialism themes and things like this throughout here, so please be warned about that. There's also talk about like massacring a whole bunch of people, things like this, so please be warned about that, especially considering the current things going on in the world, so please be warned about that. All of the trigger warnings will be listed obviously at the bottom here, but overall I did have a pretty good time reading this one. I think it's a pretty good one to get to know Carol as like a hero and like her sort of like key character traits and things like this, basically like that she's incredibly headstrong and she's very much someone who will do what she thinks is right. She's also a badass. Obviously you also get to see a few of her like more human connections, like her with Rhodey and like Tony and things like this, so it's a pretty good one in that sense. I don't think it's a good one to start with if you do not know anything about Carol in that sense, because you don't really get to know like how she got her powers or anything else, so in that sense it's probably not the best one to start with. But obviously I've still got the next two to go, and I will obviously comment on whether or not this series as a whole is a good place to start, but this is a pretty solid first volume and I'm going to give it like a 3.5 stars I think. So I've now just read Stay Fly, which is volume 2 in this Kelly Sue DeConnick series, and this was a really weird one to say the least, because it's following on from the previous one, and Carol runs into, what was her name, Lila Cheney, who is a person who can teleport, this kind of thing, but she's also a like rock star, like musician type thing, and she ends up finding out that this girl is like betrothed to a prince from another planet who everybody just talks in rhyming like couplets kind of thing, so then they start talking in rhyming couplets while they're there, while trying to like deal with this wedding, this kind of thing, and trying to get her out of it because she doesn't want to get married, this kind of thing. And then she ends up going back down to Earth again, where it turns out that one of Carol's previous like big villains has mind controlled a bunch of rats to take over New York, and Carol's now back again to help like wrap it all up, because Rhodey's already dealt with it, along with like Spider-Woman, people like this. They've already dealt with her, but now she's trying to deal with like the aftermath of that, and then also visit a old friend who is like dying of old age by the sounds of it. And I'm just like, what? And then also it's Christmas. I was just a bit confused reading this one, I won't lie. Like, the artwork is still great. That's all great fun. So this is what the artwork looks like, and the first issue is actually really good in here, thinking about it, because we're finding out more about the fact that Chewie is a Flurkin, because in this one here, Higher, Further, Faster, More, obviously she meets Rocket, and Rocket's going, that's not a cat, that's a Flurkin, kill it before it lays eggs, kind of thing, because they'll get everywhere, and they're like Flurkins is viewed as sort of like vermin, this kind of thing. Sort of like rats actually are generally seen by the general population, sort of like how rats are seen by the general population. So that was quite interesting to read, because then obviously she does find out that Chewie is actually a Flurkin and has laid 117 eggs, and they're all hatching. So that was quite interesting, but I think I would have preferred it to sort of follow on with that kind of idea instead of where this went. It was just a little bit random and a little bit weird. I'm genuinely not seeing how this is a good sort of starting point if you've never read any like Carol Danvers stuff whatsoever, because we are getting a bit of an explanation as to like her powers and things, but it's very much hitting the ground running in a lot of places, and you are very much like thrown in on the deep end essentially. I would recommend probably reading The Life of Captain Marvel first, which is what I read yesterday. Definitely read that one first, I reckon, because that gives you more of like a grounding of who Carol is, her character, how she got her powers, all the rest of it. But that's set like after this, if I remember rightly, but that just made more sense to me personally to read it first. But it's still enjoyable, but it's just weird at the moment. I'm just finding this quite odd, so I'm going to give this one 3 stars. I'm going to finish it off. I'm going to finish this final volume as well, but this has not been my favourite of the reading vlogs so far. Tomorrow's going to hopefully be better, but this has not been my favourite run of all time, to say the least. It was just confusing, and it's just weird at the moment. I do not understand. I do not understand, like, where the hype's coming from with this one, I won't lie. So tomorrow I'm probably going to start on these ones instead, and see what I think of those, or have a look on Marvel Unlimited, because I've got a couple of others saved on Unlimited. So what I may do is just quickly go through all of the reviews and see which one like is marked up best for like general readers, this kind of thing, and I'll read that one. But I'm going to quickly read this one to finish off the series, and we'll go from there tomorrow, I think. I finally made it back downstairs again, and I am now reading Captain Marvel Rise of the Alpha Flight, and I completely forgot in this one that Abigail Brand's in here. So as you can see, this is Abigail Brand. She is a mutant, she's more mysterious than Fury, and she's got green hair, and she's a bit of a badass, and I absolutely love her. And actually, I think if I remember rightly, this was the first time I ever met her as a character, so it's really fun to see her now, because I'm just like, oh yeah, I've seen you in like various different things to do with like Krakoa and things like this, and it's just really nice to see her in this now and being like, oh yeah, this is the first time I ever met her as a character. As for what Rise of the Alpha Flight is actually about, I am not reading the back of this specifically, because I do not really want to like remind myself what happens in it that way. I want to remember by actually physically reading it. But essentially, Carol has gone up to the Alpha Flight, which is like a space station, like obviously in space, 250 kilometers above the Earth, and it's essentially going to be there to help protect the Earth from various like space threats, essentially. And Carol's like, I just really want something different right now. So that is where I am. I'm also really loving the artwork on here. As we can see, Rocket is about, can you see Rocket there? Rocket is about to show up as well, which is really exciting, and I just wanted to point out that A, I've read this one before but I can't remember it that well, B, I'm having a good time with like the nostalgia side of things with Abigail Brand, and C, I'm thinking like that I'm still really enjoying this one all over again like I did the first time round. So really excited to be carrying on reading this. I think I made the right decision as to what to read. Now I've just finished Rise of the Alpha Flight, and now the sun is now just hitting at just the right angle, so just let's just deal with this right now and just ignore it. But anyway, I've now just finished this, and I've just remembered why I enjoyed this so much. This one is filled with a lot of action. There is mystery in here. There's also a lot of like bits where we're dealing with Carol trying to like save the spaceship, while also trying to like be a little bit more diplomatic, learn the job of trying to run the Alpha Flight, because she is more like the diplomat running it instead of the like crew who's actually in on the action, but she keeps on getting in on the action. This kind of thing. We're also dealing with the aftermath of a lot of like Kree war things that happen, and people trying to get revenge on the Kree for that, because Carol is half Kree, and also on her like suit she has the Harlot Star, which is the like the insignia of the Kree, this kind of thing. People keep on going after her, this kind of thing, and I really enjoyed this one. I'd actually say that this is probably a better one to start with than the Kelly Sue DeConnick stuff, because this one just sort of goes right in on the action, and while you don't get like Goose or Chewie or Flurkins in general, you still get a lot of like who Carol is, her powers, her personality, this kind of thing, and you get Abigail Brand as well, and you can never go wrong with a bit of Abigail Brand in my mind. So I'd actually say this one is the better one to go for, but it's entirely up to you. Both are really good like starting points for the character in terms of finding out more about Carol's personality, her powers, her history, this kind of thing. But this one I'd say is just that little bit more fun and a little bit more like action based, this kind of thing, which is a lot more like fun to read, I guess you could say. But overall, Kelly Sue DeConnick stuff is still good as well, but I think I'm gonna say I prefer this one, which is Rise of the Alpha Flight, and I'm giving it 4 stars. I think that's all I've really got time for, so I think in conclusion what I'm gonna say is that the 2 Captain Marvel comics I read are both really good starting points if you want to start reading Captain Marvel stuff. Like I said though, I do prefer Rise of the Alpha Flight, but both are pretty good. Or if you are more of a fan of like team-ups and things like this, then Miss Marvel Team-Up is a really good one to read as well if you're looking for like more stuff with Kamala. Or if you're looking for some Monica Rambeau stuff, then Photon is pretty good as well. It is not the greatest comic in the world, it definitely could have been longer, but if you are looking for more grounded self-care based stuff, that is definitely a good one to go for. And also The Life of Captain Marvel is also a really great starting point as well, as if you are looking for Carol Danvers. Think about it, basically All of the comics I've read, you can just read. They're generally fine. You will need a little bit of Marvel knowledge, but generally if you've seen the MCU, you should be fine reading any of this. And I think that's all I've really got to say. I picked some really good comics for this one. Everything I've mentioned is really good for like starting people, or if you are experienced and you just want to have some comic book recommendations. Everything I read in this one is a really good place to start, or just read in general. And I think that's where I'm going to leave this, because I do not think I have time to continue on and read anything more. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me your favourite Captain Marvel comic or any other Marvel character you'd like to see me do a reading vlog for. I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a star emoji down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is currently filled with all things Captain Marvel, Kree, Flerken, all of that kind of stuff is all linked down below, so you can check that if you want some more in-depth like conversations and explainers and guides and all of this kind of thing. All of that will be linked down below if you want to check it out, as well as a link as well down below to my Etsy store that sells bookish merch if you're interested in that. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. Until next time everyone, bye!